Hi guys, I'm on Kale. This is OmEn Online.
Yeah, I'm Adam. This is Johnny.
Sure.
Right.
I'm Johnny.
Got all of us back again. Chuck, it's good to have you with us again. You've been,
Here pretty much most every episode since the second.
I was going to say more like a joy to have around, but that
Yeah, that too.
Oh, got an interesting show for you. Stay tuned, man. I hope you like it. All right.
Who farted? It stinks in here. Oh, now I know who farted. It was him.
I didn't do it. I swear it was the dog.
Plug it.
Right.
Is it Black Heart or Black Hearts?
Black Hearts.
Black Hearts.
I do
online.
videos with everybody, so I try not to do videos with just me.
I know.
So of course, we're here with our guest on Kill Blackheart, Father Blackheart, actually, if I'm right.
Right.
You are a registered what?
Title is that I have is a high priest. I studied 6 years to get that specific title. I have a few other credentials, studies in demonology, and one, of course, of angelic literature.
Right.
So, different years of each thing. Demonology was about 4 to 5 years, I believe, of study. The angelic was about maybe 1 or 2 years, not as much. That was more instinctual learning, which,
That's awesome. I feel that because I've always loved researching all forms of religious or spiritual belief. I love every bit of it because I love the faith that people put into it. They put their heart, and it doesn't always have to be the spiritual part. It's the message of love in a lot of religions, So it's definitely an interest of mine. But you're also a member of the vampire community. Am I correct?
that is correct.
Right, and so that's not like the whole mythical. You read Dracula, Bram Stoker's Dracula.
That is a very big misconception that we get a lot, especially in the online community of it, because the vampire community is a very, very broad term.
Right.
There's a lot of different sections of it. You've got the online community. You've got the community that's been around 70s, 80s, or probably before that, definitely. That just hung out in certain groups, and they weren't really the mythological people. A lot of it is medical conditions. Some require blood to have energy to sustain themselves for the day. That's more rare than, usually that's a fad with most of them. I'm going to be honest with most of the community, but some do have that medical.
See, now I've actually heard. I can't remember all the details, but there was a royal family in Europe somewhere where they had, or a member of them had a medical condition. They had to stay out of sunlight and had to drink blood for a certain nutrient. Now, of course, we've got vitamin supplements and everything like that, and more medication for conditions. But it helped them, and it makes me think that might be part of where the mythology, the belief in that part of it comes from.
Right.
But
I think I need some air.
Children.
right, but it's not.
Between
it's
us,
not
yeah,
like the horror
right.
movies where they get.
It's not like the horror movies where anything is unconsensual or anything like that. You have to have a willing donor no matter what type of energy you are feeding from.
If not,
for
you're just a
online's
killer.
sake, I feed sexually and through energy, like emotions and such like that.
Mhm.
If people are feeling energetic, I can feed through there.
I've heard,
So you're
I've heard
not
of that too.
sanguine. You're more psychic.
There's a psychic, there's tantric, which tantric is one of those, they're on the fence of that being part of the vampire community line. It's a split decision. Some believe that it should be part of that listing. others don't. Because that goes into more of tantric, sexual. The book.
So that's what I was sitting there
you know.
thinking. I was like, does it tantric
Right.
mean sexual?
Yes. So it's like there's a little bit of a, is that really considered part of the vampire community or is it not?
I would think
So
that if it did, it'd be like a succubus, and it'd be along the lines of a psychic vampire, energy vampire.
Right.
I think it'd be more in that category, if anything.
And a lot of the terminology, and that's what gets confusing with people, is a lot of people that are legitimate or worth their salt within the community, myself included. I could probably name a few, but they'll get mad at me.
Right.
Don't.
Yeah, it's.
Well,
I'm
you
okay
can share
depending
this.
on who you ask, right? It's like that's what I mean. The vampire community itself is very, very split, and it's internally a mess because nobody ever knows. There's really nobody in charge, but everybody wants to be in charge.
Right.
So
Everybody wants to be in charge, but when
there's
they are in
so
charge,
many
they realize
conflicting
how fucked up.
informations.
There's no standardized belief, so
Right.
each group
So-
has their own, and that's normal in any cultural group that doesn't have a standardized set of rules. And I think that breeds diversity, and that breeds more evolution in the community too. So I think that's actually a good thing.
Right. The most common thing is that vampire is the term that we try to stay away from. It's just been called the vampire community for so long. There's no point in changing the name. It gets people's attention in case they need some type of assistance or help from somebody legitimate in the community. There's a lots of different easy ways to tell who's the legitimate ones and who's not. Basically, just keep asking around.
Right.
That's it. Just keep asking questions. Don't stop asking questions until you are 100% satisfied. And then once you're 100% satisfied, get about 50% more. Keep asking more questions to make sure you are. Because sometimes, they could seem all good and honky-dory in the front, but then about 2 years later, you're in prison or dead. Like, some of these people are very dangerous.
Y'all remember hearing about where were they, down in Florida or?
No, they were here in Kentucky.
Oh.
There was one.
No, they were
here.
from Kentucky, but I think they were down south somewhere.
They were on their way.
You're talking about Roderick Farrell, I believe, back in the 90s.
That
think
sounds
so.
right.
Roderick
Sounds right.
Farrell, he was, okay. That's a person that is talked about quite a bit in the community, and we like to use him as a comparison of the type of people you want to stay away from. He was a very, very, very good at manipulating. For somebody that was attractive, it was his charisma that was basically sexy to everybody. Like, he was able to wrap anyone he wanted around his fingers for at least a week or two. And his little group that he gathered, he wrapped them completely. But, other members of the community that were legitimate and such at the time, they didn't want anything to do with him because he was just manipulative, broke into animal shelters, killed animals to drink their blood. All it was his ex-girlfriend made the joke of, I'm not running away with you because, my parents would have to die in order for them to let that happen. So they went to her house just to steal the vehicle, but then he saw how easy it would be to go ahead and kill her dad because he was asleep on the chair anyway, so he then killed him. Wasn't going to kill the mom, but she found him, and found him with blood all over him. He didn't see the husband dead, but all she sees is somebody in her house covered in blood, splashes coffee all over him, so he beats the hell out of her. Puts a V in both of their arms for Visago. He said that in the interviews later on. Everybody was thinking it was for Vampire. It was for Visago, who he believed he was reincarnated from. Which later on in jail, he said that he believed he was the devil himself.
Who is Visago?
Visago was a vampire in folklores back in, I believe, the 1600s.
Would you like me to fact check on this?
Go for it. Please fact check that. But I do believe it was back in the 1600s. I could be wrong on that date, but it's an old one. But definitely from a folklore of that vampire from that legend. I'm waiting on that now. I'm kind of curious if I got the dates kind of right.
You said Visago, and then what else
Visago.
about him?
He was a vampire back in the vampire myth back in the 1600s, I believe.
Myth.
He's a talking typer.
He's talking to
Not normally. I don't know. I'm just coming around vampire myths. Nothing about that name specifically.
Did you spell it right?
I don't know.
Probably.
Visago.
Nope. Vesago.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I got it.
Vesago.
What? V.
Yeah.
Esago.
Mhm.
Okay.
My dyslexic ass. I remember mythologies.
I don't know, but something about. I don't know about that. That don't sound right. I don't know, but the Farrell case came up.
There you go.
And it talks about, he said, okay, Farrell believed he was a 500-year-old vampire named Visago.
That's about right then. 1600s. It was in the 90s.
Right.
1500s, 1600s. There.
See, but there it said he didn't even believe he was reincarnated.
Yeah, he believed he was the. See, his mother was a. Okay, she claimed Wiccan, but she was not. She
They
did all kinds of.
kill a group. Him and his group murdered an innocent couple in Florida.
Yeah, that was Heather's parents.
Yeah.
They only killed 2 people. They killed more animals, but they killed only 2 humans. And the messed up thing about Roderick was when the police finally caught them, it was because Heather, found out that he just killed her parents. So she's the one that called the police to find the location. So it was just she got charged with being, kidnapped. She didn't get anything, no time at all, of course, because she had no
Damn.
idea that he was going to be, and even Roderick told them, no, we didn't tell her that they were going to die.
Right.
At all. She had no clue of it. You can't charge her with anything for something that I did that she had no knowledge of.
Of course.
So, and that's the fucked up thing about him,
Man.
is he walked right up to the gun, no fucks given,
See, this
pointed
is
it at his own head, and he was like, go ahead, do it.
I don't know. But nah,
A
it's
smile on his face.
saying the thing after he said he was the vampire thing.
Mm-hmm.
It says he claimed he was part of a vampire cult and that the other members were part of a unique brotherhood. This belief stemmed from his obsession with the game Vampire the Masquerade. See, I hate that though in a way because they're trying to associate a game with something.
Right.
Now I can see that because
There-
there was a movie that came out back in the 80s called Mazes and Monsters, and Tom Hanks starred in it, and this one he was still real young. And he was playing this game called Mazes and Monsters. And did you remember Jump Steady CD Master of the Flying Guillotine?
Yeah, I think I have.
Now,
Yeah.
there are sections where they use parts of that movie, samples, in that CD. Like the one where he talks about the phonetic of Glossamer or whatever, jumps into the pit and dies.
Mhm.
That's from that scene. But what they do basically is they're playing this game. Well, they decide to start up in the level and basically taking it to LARP level. Well, they don't realize that Tom Hanks' character is actually mentally unstable and ends up, thinking a lot of the shit's real.
Right.
So, and then there's a whole thing about that. It's really cool to watch. But
That's
if you
awesome.
really think about it, it's a story about mental illness back in the
Mental illness.
80s.
Right. That was a good way, I guess, back then to start bringing awareness to mental illness. I mean, I haven't seen the movie, so I can't say that, but
I used to have it on tape.
Mainstream media, though, with the whole Roderick Farrell case, was not the greatest, bringing of that case. There's
right.
actually a book, I believe it's called The Embrace. Aphrodite Jones wrote it. Could be wrong on the title, but I'm fairly certain that's what it's called. But it's her, she basically interviewed everybody. Everyone from the situations. Like, the entire groups, the friends of theirs, the people that they did Vampire the Masquerade with. Jaden Murphy was one of those people that was, he was 1 foot in, 1 foot out, basically. He was in the Vampire the Masquerade groups, but he was also part of trying to be a member of the real vampire community. Which is where Roderick was basically shunned from there first off the bat, 100%.
No, I
He
played
didn't join the
live
Vampire the
action
Masquerade.
Vampire the Masquerade, and it's nothing like
Right.
what these people do.
He didn't go to the Masquerade until after the first community shut him out, because people saw what kind of twisted person he was. Like the vampire community's rules: you can't harm an animal. You know, you can't sit there and take any type of energy from somebody unwillingly. Them going in and breaking into animal shelters and killing, puppies and stuff, that's an immediate, yeah, no, we don't want anything to do with you. You know?
Right.
Uh,
That's a big rule for me.
So-
harm no one.
Right.
Unless it's necessary. You
You
gotta
pass me the
defend
ashtray,
yourself. But harm no one. You know what I'm saying? Harm nothing. Because that's all just a life. Animals, some of you do have to eat, but just not for no reason at all. And to kill them, drink the blood, the guy obviously was, I would say, unstable.
His
And
mother-
he'd be a bad reputation for any community.
a lot of his issues stem
That'd
from
be
his
like
mom.
practicing Santeria.
Because his mom was a heavy occultist,
Mhm.
number one. And she has even admitted several times doing rituals to her own children. That's why she never confirmed or denied that Roderick was an only child, ever. So she doesn't know
Well,
if
wouldn't they have like birth certificates or something for that?
that's not if you had different births. Like if you didn't have it in a hospital and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Or if nobody knew you were pregnant.
Right. And she just said she always did rituals on her kids.
Right.
But as far as we know, Roderick was her only one that was documented that we know of. I could be wrong. He could have had siblings, but I really don't think he did.
Right.
And
Maybe he ate them.
Very possible. I'm not even gonna lie. Like Roderick he's a type of evil. Like he's a psychotic, but he's an evil psychotic, right? This man is one of those. He really does have some type of manipulation ability on him. Like the only reason he's still in jail right now is because he is bored. There's nothing else for him to do yet. That's full on his excuse. He sat there and proved it to other people by saying, "Let me walk out the door." And then they let him go out the door. And he's standing outside in front of the prison. Then he just walked back in himself. Just to show that he couldn't.
Really?
He's insane.
You think you think man, you'd think they'd have him in some kind of super prison like you see in the movies
He was
for, like,
in-
X-Men or
he
something.
was in
He was
Murray.
doing that,
He
Like
was in-
what Shield
He was in a
had.
psychiatric
Right,
hospital over in Murray for the longest time. I don't know if he transferred over to Eustis. I think I read something about him transferring to Eustis. Right now they're talking about freeing him. Like letting him go completely. So that's where it's kind of like I'm feeling like that myth of them letting him walk out like that is kind of true, because the dude was the youngest person to ever receive the death sentence. He was the youngest ever.
Man, do you see?
It was
see in the
reduced to
news-
life in prison, but that's now probably being reduced to he's going to get out.
That's crazy. Did you see the who was it? The white supremacist, I guess it was, that went and shot up a black church little kid.
Yeah.
He's just been sentenced to the death penalty too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, good for him.
I mean,
No
I mean,
offense.
if you're doing it just full of hate, I don't know.
why else
what
would you shoot up a whole entire building?
Yeah, it's just hate. I hate to say take any life, but when they just full of hate,
There's not much else you can do.
I mean, to where it's gone so far that you've committed such a heinous crime. You know what I'm saying? It's awful. It's atrocious. I think he deserves what he's going to get.
But at the same
and I
time,
don't say that lightly.
exactly. At the same time, though, I mean, what are they going to do? Give him lethal injection?
He's
Probably.
getting go to sleep and go
Yeah,
wherever
you go.
is you wherever you grow. You know, it's exactly it. And I was truly know because I've been there. so we can't speak on anybody's belief system. But
See, I kind of like the thoughts from the show Lucifer.
right,
What he says hell really is, it's like it's all based on your own guilt. If you're not guilty, if you don't feel guilty about anything, you can open the doors and walk out on your own. But everyone is, there because they feel guilty about something, so they put themselves in their own hell, basically.
that's interesting. That's interesting. I kind of like that too, because we see it now that it's all in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah.
It's from every perspective. Anybody's a bad guy from a different perspective.
Well, I like what he says too, because of your perspective thing you're just talking about. Like he
Uh-huh.
says on the show, I'm not evil, I punish evil.
Mhm.
My job, I am not an evil person. I'm not an evil being. It's my job to punish evil.
Right. Like cops in our world.
See, nowhere in any demonology, scriptures or studies does it say Lucifer is a bad guy. I mean, in a few of the research that I've done, it mentions Lucifer, but it never once says that he's the bad guy in it. In fact, one of the quotes that I saw was Lucifer is actually a traitor of hell, as in he came to hell, offering a new way of it, and then betrayed them, took it all over, did something, went another direction, didn't do what they told him to do. So he never once deceives heaven, never once deceives people. It even stated that along with those verses that he's not a deceiver of man, he's literally the deceiver of hell. Like, he sits there and messed with them, not, the other way around, which is why that most Satanists and stuff don't see Lucifer as, Satanism is a little bit of a newer religion with Christianity as well.
We got to separate also between a Anton LaVey Satanist and a Luciferian Satanist. We had this conversation recently.
Yeah.
And it was deleted.
Anton LaVey Satanists don't actually believe in Satan.
Right.
Where a Luciferian, I don't know if that's the proper terminology they like to go by, Satanist would be someone who follows.
See, that's where my little bit of confusion came in with it, because from my understanding, that you got your LaVey Satanism,
Mm-hmm.
you have your other Satanism that believes in Satan, right?
Uh-huh.
Then you do have your Luciferianism,
Things like that.
because Dale did say that there is a difference between certain of them,
Okay.
certain ones, and he's really the only Satanist I hang out with on a daily that's been studying it for years.
You would
And
think it'd be like
No, he
said there can be,
Baptist and a
and
Catholic.
he says there
question
can
for
be
you.
some similarities between the two of Luciferianism and
Now,
Satanism.
now here's a question for you. See, on the show Lucifer, they also state that Lucifer's original title, when he was still a full-on angel,
Mhm.
wasn't really Lucifer. His original name was Samael. Now, I don't know. I don't know how that works out because I don't remember much about Samael.
Samael.
I know he was one of the seven major angels.
I don't think they were the same.
You notice the L at the end. Amongst all your angels, Michael, Raphael, Samuel,
Azrael.
Azrael, almost all of them end with the L. The same L in Elohim, and it goes to the L, the term for God in their language,
Yeah.
right? So all the angels.
It's kind of like how
Yet
you have Kal-El, Zor-El.
is actually on a lot of pentagrams that I see. Samael for the 3 open spaces,
Mhm.
Lilith on the 2 bottom open spaces. And I've actually been told by another Satanist that that's wrong, but I've seen it in books I've had since I was a kid, and I have seen it recently after I talked to him to confirm that. And it could be something, I don't know.
Well, see, it's kind of like, did you ever watch those movies, the Warlock movies?
Uh-huh.
Remember in the first one, he had come into the future from the past, and he was trying to assemble the witches, the Grand Grimoire, And when you assembled the full thing together, it gave the true name of God, and when it was spoken, would undo all of creation.
See, from my studies, when you know someone's true name, you have power over them. So if you were to know God's true name, you would have power.
Well,
Control over
then
God.
that reminds me back too of A Wizard of Earthsea, the stories about Ursula K. Le Guin.
Uh-huh.
She wrote in her stories all the magic that they would use on the world of Earthsea. Basically, all you needed to really know was something's true name, and you could pretty much make it do almost anything you wanted it to do.
See, and that seems like it comes from that historical belief to me. And I've seen the book series. I haven't got to read that one yet. I was this close to
Amazing,
starting to the first one.
amazing. I
But,
can almost recite the whole first book.
That's
to you.
actually kind of awesome that they had that in there.
That is something I'd like to get on camera again, but we had it on camera before. I'll have to check with Felicia if she still has it on one of her phones.
Bye,
or something.
Felicia.
Right? But we've actually, I do paranormal investigating and exorcisms.
Right.
So when we did stuff together, we always recorded it. She liked to have it on recording, even if she didn't post it online, which 2 of our incidents were posted online. I'll have to find the links to them and such and have them send them to me or something. But 2 of them were posted. But the other ones were not, because confidentiality. If people don't want them posted online, they don't want to, be on camera with something, and we let them know. Here's the paperwork stating that we're not gonna.
Right.
We're not going to post this here. This is for our learning experience only, or for any.
We need
future
this for
people.
training tools
Right.
or
It's
something.
it's good training experience, So we were able to confirm that because it was not very ethical, I'll be honest. We were kind of dicks about it. But there was somebody that was, we always say, claiming to be possessed first. You never want to assume that it's going to be a real thing. There's a lot of science behind anything. Somebody could just have a mental illness. Sometimes it's really a full-blown something's going on. So there's a lot of different ways to test that. Blessed water. I wouldn't say holy water. Blessed water. Because if you're working with a certain, type of spirituality that's different, than Catholics aren't the only ones that can perform.
Right.
So you want to bless it in your own faith, your own spirituality, is what I like to say.
Right.
Not faith, but spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
So bless it in your own spirituality. If it even makes them flinch or something, maybe. As long as you have your full faith into that spirituality and it's not faltered, because any of the strength you get to exercise anything, I'm promising you, it doesn't come from God. I mean, He gave you the power initially, but everybody has the willpower themselves to handle that type of thing. It's all about your own strength, your own aura, and your own power with it.
And to go in that further, I can go into even a Christian perspective. There are sects of Christianity that believe in what's the Thomas Gospel, where a lot of our King James and our versions of the Bible have had Thomas removed,
Right.
in favor of, I can't remember, Matthew or Mark. I don't remember, one of those 2, all right, in favor of that one, towards the eastern areas, India, I believe possibly Ethiopia. They have the Thomas Gospel in their belief, which the difference is our Bibles teach that Jesus was the only one with the divine spark. Theirs actually teach that we all have that little spark of God, our own little spark of divinity inside of each and every one of us, because He did use His power for every one of us, according to that belief.
According to any belief, according to the Bible, it states that God is within all of us. It states that Christ and the Holy Spirit is within all of us.
It also said that in Stigmata too.
But,
Kingdom of God is inside you.
And the way you were talking about your specific face, that goes along with something I did in associative. You know what I'm saying? If, just take it back to the most basic form. If you got a dog, right?
Right.
You feed him his treats and you click a clicker. Feed him his treat, click a clicker. feed him his treat, click a clicker. All of a sudden, he associates that clicker with his treat every time. You don't have to give him a treat every time. Clicker, you're doing good. You know what I'm saying? Or you hit the clicker and he comes running to you for the treat or something like that. So that's an associative thing with the way our brains work. Now, with your spirituality, with your faith, if you were trained, raised, practiced that way for a long time, and that has worked for you, that's how you found your spirituality, then you associate that with it. So while we're all tapping into an energy, whether it's for prayer, magic, however you practice, we're all tapping into an energy in a way that we associate with that energy. We've trained ourselves to work with that energy on that level. So we don't all have to do it the same way.
Exactly.
And that was just adding to your point of everybody doing their exorcisms has their own way.
There's tons of different ways, and that's like, there are wrong ways, but you know, and none of them are fun. No matter what the way is, not a single one is fun. If it turns out to be a legitimate one, which is more rare than,
Finish your thought.
which is more rare than others, you know, that it's a legitimate one, it can be massive strain on the person's body. You know, there's not always a guarantee that the person is going to live or will be alive when you're done, depending on what it is, because sometimes it's not your usual, you know, Christian demons. You know, it could be something older. You know, anything that possesses somebody is energy. You can't, you know, demons are just the titles that people brought. You know, it's anything that goes into your body is energy. Your conscious is energy. You know, everybody's is. So that's what's left over from ghosts. That's how, there's the science behind that. It's just the leftover kinetic energy going around.
Yeah, you have the residual wave forms. It's like when you drop a pebble in a pool of water, and the waveforms go to the end and they come back, hit on each other in a week or every time, and they continue to pulsate, right? Until all the energy is gone. Your mind works on brain waves that reflect, you know what I'm saying? And I could easily see, say, the residual as essence type spirit being some trauma happened to you to where your brain put out massive signals that were just crazy, and then you got this energy waveform just bouncing back and forth until the day it finally dissipates. That's crazy. But it is a real possibility.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Were y'all done?
Yeah, I was done.
Okay. To add to his thing about the exorcisms all being different and stuff, do you remember in the movie Constantine when he did his first exorcism? He sat there and was going through different little holy symbols on his keychain.
That's exactly what
to
breed
see
it
which
is.
one affected it.
What breed it is, exactly. Like I myself have, I have a pair of gloves that I'll use for certain things. I have this ring that's pretty much my cure-all. I have 3 different necklaces that I can put on myself and put on the person that is possessed to kind of weaken it, at least try to purify the soul and give the other soul strength to help me, fight it, Let's see. Several knives. Sometimes, if you know the person's already dead, and there's just no other way, this thing's old as dirt, you got to get information somehow. So you got to have blessed things that are going to hurt. And that's only if you know that they're dead. You've gotten clearance from every person you can possibly get clearance from. You have to get basically a doctor to go over there and verify that that body is dead.
So I get the image of Supernatural. You know what I'm saying? The show Supernatural kills, except for when you start talking about getting permission from doctors.
You actually, with any legitimate exorcism, you need to make sure of everything. And if the person's possessed and they're dead, they're not going to have a heartbeat. they're not going to have a pulse. They're just using the meat suit. You know, the blood
Till
doesn't
it
have
rots away.
they don't, you're right, they don't have to be breathing, you know, they just have to have a body, you know, something that's there. They can feel everything, their nerves are working, their brain is working, but the rest of their artery, everything else won't, if they're gone.
Now, why
Right.
would they stick around for the exorcism? You know, why wouldn't they bounce? I mean,
Maybe they can't.
Usually
breathe
they
meat
kill the
suit.
person during the exorcism,
uh
and then by then the exorcist generally has it trapped in that body. Because if you don't trap it in that body unless you're trying to send it to hell or send it to where it's supposed to go, you want to keep it in there. You don't want it to be able to bounce body to body. Because otherwise it would have just done that. It would have just bounced up to the nearest vessel that's right there. So generally you want to keep it in there anyways, especially if the person's dead, because you're not harming the dead person. Just get the doctor over there to make sure. You know, have them declared legally dead. How the fuck are they still moving and stuff? Okay, cool. You know, that's not scientifically possible. Awesome.
It's a
So
zombie.
we're clear to, you know, scientifically, you know, examine this, right? And by all means, 99.9% of the time, the doctor's going to have a scalpel with you.
Right.
Like, he's going to try and figure out what the fuck's going on. And as long as you're not making lethal cuts, the doctor's still not going to care. Or a mortician. Doesn't matter what's there. So that's another thing. You have to make sure you're going with steps if you're trying to get information. If you're going the hard way. Which, America, I don't recommend you doing that in. Most states don't like that except Georgia. They're cool with it. Georgia's the only one that I know of that's just 100% cool with, oh no man, if he's possessed, just shoot him in the head. Just kill that motherfucker. Run him over, put him in the wood chipper. I do not care. Like, Georgia gives no fucks. But
So the government knows that these things are happening.
Yeah, probably.
Probably.
I'll say probably. From me working with the church, you know, my ministries and the older ministers that are there, I would think yes, just because of some people that, you know, who they're partnered with, the fact that my mom knows quite a bit of information, more than she always lets on stuff, and then, you know, she used to work for Fort Knox and everything, you know, never told me her position for real. So I would say yes, but I can't, you know.
Can't confirm.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
that's cool.
I know for a fact that Georgia knows. I mean, there's too many, you know, if you look into a lot of the demonic activity or supernatural activity, a lot of it in America happens in Georgia. Worldwide, the most activity is in Brazil.
Really?
Actually, it's, yes, Brazil.
I can
Brazil's
see
jungle.
that.
seen
Brazil,
it.
because a lot of the voodoo and hoodoo
There
priests
is
and
a lot.
such,
There is a lot of jungle in
They,
Brazil. And there's a
uh,
lot of different villages and cities in
it-
Brazil as well.
and it's not demons usually either. It's mostly older things because it's Brazil. They're not really, the only time they knew of Christianity is when they brought it over. They had their own faith and belief systems and their own spirits and deities and such.
Of course.
So they're bringing back older things from there. So that's why Brazil is worse. It's the number one. Like,
And there's a lot of people that go missing in Brazil too.
There's more activity over there than anywhere else. Actually, we have more black hearts over there from Division 1 than we have in anywhere else in the world.
Right.
Because there is so much activity. I know of another person who's not with the Black Heart Ministry. His name is Justin. I had no clue that this guy even did exorcisms. I just thought he was a counselor for, you know, Notre Dame, you know, cool kids. You know?
Hey, didn't that burn down recently? Too soon.
Too soon.
Too soon.
Um,
Too soon.
Notre Dame
But,
did
you
burn
know,
down.
I had no clue that, you know, he takes
No.
yearly trips to Brazil. I knew that because he's from Brazil.
No, Notre Dame.
He does exorcisms
Church.
over there as well. You know,
It burnt down.
you know, when we were talking about exorcism, somebody else questioned that and they're like, oh, so the power of Christ compels you. And he starts laughing. He's like, no, that's what's going to get you flown across a room. He's like, you have to say the blood of, you know, the blood of light or the blood of Christ, you know, and you have to really mean it and believe in it.
And
Like, you
and a
can't
lot of
just
times
say
you see
something.
a lot of these exorcisms and prayers when you see them actually in books. They're all written in Latin. At least the Catholic ones.
The stronger Catholic ones are definitely in Latin.
Well, do you know why they're written in Latin now? Because that was the main language at the time.
Well, no, even later, the church kept everything in Latin for them and their officials, the Bible included, so that the people didn't know what the Bible said.
I can see that, yeah.
All right, they weren't. It was secluded information, just like they do now with their library, whatever they call it. Their man,
Where they have
books,
they
and
have books
that have
and
never been
documents
looked at,
and
like
just-
hardly anybody's ever looked
I
at.
Right.
fully 100% believe that the Vatican has these tablets because, okay, in the Bible you hear of one word of God, right? In other lore of angelics and such like that, there are two words of God. One was sent to Moses, right? Your 10 Commandments.
Actually, it was 15.
Well, yeah,
originally.
you know,
What?
It was 15 commandments originally, but he threw one of the tablets. And
Oh
that's
no,
what
it
caused
got printed twice, man. He went up the first time, had it printed, come down. What the hell are y'all doing worshiping a golden cow, man? Y'all stupid and just throwing
Well,
it
see,
down.
I'd heard a
The
different
second
story.
time-
I think there was
remember-
only 10.
Well, see, I'd heard that there was 15.
They were just
originally, and he had
longer
thrown one of the
in the-
tablets. That's why there was only 10.
They were just
Now,
longer
I don't
originally.
remember if that's something I actually heard or if that was some comedy sketch I saw or something.
I'll have to look
But
at it.
I heard something about that. That's why I brought it up. Now, whether it's true or not, can't tell you.
I'll have to look into it, man. That's actually good information. But
Because
The
that's
other
how we
word
ended
of
up with
God
10 commandments
was
instead of
actually
15.
brought down twice. The first time you hear about it, you do hear about it in the Christian Bible, but it doesn't really go into detail about it until you kind of read the other angelic stuff, and then you're like, oh, that makes sense. First time, Babylon. Everybody then found out truths, right? They learned that there were multiple deities, different things like that, the truth word of God. People couldn't deal with it, so God had Raziel. I believe his name was Raziel. I know it's an R. Raziel sounds very right. But Raziel had him bring him back up to heaven. So he brought him back up. That's when he then sat there and, changed everybody's languages, such like that. They couldn't understand each other. They could stop arguing and fighting over which
Tower of
of their
Babel.
favorite gods was better.
right.
Well, later on,
Oh, I'm sorry,
He-
Tower of Babel.
this kind of goes in with one of my personal beliefs of God's kind of AWOL. Like, he might be on earth, he's around, but he's not giving the heavens guidance or the other deities guidance.
Kind of like in
He's-
Dogma.
Like, he's just, the angels are kind of doing their own thing or following his last commands and such. But his last basically was, they're not worthy of the words, of my other words. This is what they're doing right now with the ones that they still have. Like, they're still not obeying the simple 10 ones.
motherfucker.
You can't even keep simple 10 rules. How can you expect to know any more than that? Well, after he disappeared, the other angels were still like, okay, we're going to keep the word of God up here. Raziel said no. The same one who brought him up, he said, I think that there are people that are ready to know about that. Because that's about dated to about around 2,000-ish years ago. Basically around the same time Christianity was even born and a lot of the other newer religions started to be born. So it just happened again. However, legend, mythology with that states that the word of God never left earth again. It stayed. That the leaders of the faiths kept it, basically. So the prophets at that time, your Bible writers, they knew all of the facts, but it didn't make a profit. You can't make a profit from
and we're
everybody
talking
being
like
right.
money wise, monetary wise,
Money.
not
Yeah.
Not a prophet as in someone who comes to tell you things.
Right. You can't make a profit
Well,
from
you
that.
gotta distinct
that's
because the
true.
way you said
You
that.
can't
what the
make
conversation
money
is.
from that, right? You can't make
Yeah.
money from everybody agreeing and getting along. So those original leaders of those faiths were like, they knew what was up. But okay, I get this section. Okay, cool. I'll take care of this area. I'll take care of this area. All right, awesome. I've got this part. But then Christianity kind of crusades, you know, and then everything went to shit. Everybody forgot that everybody knew what was going on. They knew it was up. They just had their own factions and their own, you know, ways of living with their own deities that they appreciated. They all forgot that over the years. That's why they went to the war over who's right and who's wrong. When in the beginning, everybody knew everybody was right.
Islam had taken the majority of Spain over. I think they took Spain over, conquered it for a while. They had attacked all around the Mediterranean, North Africa and stuff like that. And they had Charles the Hammer. He was the one who basically riled everybody up. And then that's when they started the Crusades over to Jerusalem to try to stop Islam from taking over the rest of Europe, because they were actually fighting and getting deeper into Europe. So if it wasn't for the Crusades, then Christianity probably would have been wiped out.
Boy, if only. I mean,
Wow. Tell us how you really feel.
with my hands.
Right. It is definitely an interesting time for people of both faiths. I think a lot of political powers used people's belief to get what they wanted. I really
Basically, I feel like
more.
religion is used as a way to enslave people.
I don't think that's the way it's intended.
Religion is supposed to be right here. Whatever you believe.
I know,
I'm right there.
but most people go by other things and they see a form of control.
That's why I like the term spirituality instead. Because religion is seen as a system of control. Spirituality is your own personal connection with your own higher power.
I like how you say that because it's kind of like Neil deGrasse Tyson says when he talks about your faith or whatever. He doesn't call it that. He says your truth.
Your truth.
Everyone
yes.
has their own truth. And, you know, he's like, I try to live by my truth.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly right.
That's a very interesting way to put it. Because everybody bases their truth off of their experience.
Because, I mean, look at it this way. I could go to the same church with somebody, and both of us believe in the same thing, but there are parts of that thing somewhere along the way that we don't agree with. Like, I agree with, and they don't. So then there's going to be probably something said about that.
Or you interpret it in a different way. And that's cool that you can actually hang out and have different beliefs and maybe be able to give reasons why, but still it doesn't bother you that their way is different.
Exactly. Everybody's different. No one is exactly the same.
Right.
If we were, this would be a pretty fucking boring place.
Extremely boring. I wouldn't like
You're
it.
exactly right.
Then it would just be all order. No chaos. Goes back to my theory that everything is chaos with a little bit of order mixed in.
And there has to be chaos. There is no order without chaos. You have to have one to have the other. It's like, how would you describe light if there was no darkness? If it was never dark and it was always light, would you even have a term for it?
Now remember though, what's normal to a spider is chaos to a fly.
Exactly.
So, light, dark, chaos, order, that's still in the eye of the
There's a
beholder.
balance.
That's still to what your perception
Yeah,
of
it's
chaos is
still
and what your perception
To
of
your
order
understanding of what it is.
I think sometimes bad things happen to remind people how good it can be, how good it actually is.
I just think God can be a dick.
That too.
As a pastor, that's my kind of assumption. Like, nobody ever said he was nice. Any of the gods were nice. In fact, more lords say that they're dicks than they say that they're loving. But they also say that they like to test people. And it can be a huge test of faith. And, just because they can be, like...
What was that one story about the guy that God kept doing stuff to, and finally there's just... And
What, my
one day
life?
he said...
No,
he said
there was
something about, there's just something about you that pisses me off.
I don't know that exact line.
I don't know that.
There is a story where God let Satan do a bunch of bad things to a guy, put plagues on him or something like that,
To test his faith, to see if he would
and
turn.
to see if he would turn. And he said, "Yeah, go ahead and test him."
Apparently he did
he
the same thing
problems
to
for
Christ, didn't he? Like, he showed him
there
hell
was
of
the
what it could be.
temptation in the desert, but it
I
wasn't
might
on
be
that
thinking.
level.
No, I
It
might be
was
thinking
not
that story
even
that
on
you're
that
thinking
level.
of, where he sent the guy to hell to show him what it could be like
No,
that it could be a free will and a good
Supposedly,
place.
after the crucifixion, Jesus descended for 3 days.
He went to that's even in some demonology stuff.
Then ascended into heaven.
It's that hell and earth. Okay, the lower planes and earth, different time zones technically, right? 5 minutes here could be about 5 years down there, or whatever, right? So
Yeah,
him
they
being dead
explain
for
that.
3 days.
They explained stuff like that in Lucifer too.
Right.
The guy was only dead for like, I think a couple, like 6 hours or
Yeah.
something. But yet he felt like he was down there for, I think he
Hundreds
said
of years.
like 400 years or something.
And with that said, Lucifer going down there, Jesus going down there for 3. My belief is that they're both the same person. If you look at the certain scriptures and Bible studies, that they can be conceived as the same person. Especially with looking into demonology as well, of how long Lucifer was in hell, matches up to how long Jesus Christ was in hell. Because it does say Jesus Christ went to hell. That says that in every prayer that you could look at about the crucifixion. It's in, what is it, the Nicene Creed, I believe? Suffered, died, was buried, descended into hell. The third day he rose, basically, is the summary of that. That's Catholic, but, kind of goes into that one. I believe it's the Nicene Creed. I really want to say it's the Nicene Creed. But it clearly states that he descended into hell. And, suffered, died, was buried, blah, blah, blah.
I know.
Was he
I know
that times
the
Rasputin?
prayer. I don't know what it's called. I was raised Catholic, so I remember hearing it all the time in church.
Yeah.
But I couldn't remember off the top of my head what it's called.
I'm pretty sure, because there's the Apostles' Creed, there's the Nicene Creed, you've got the Lord's Prayer, which is the Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, the Hail Mary.
Mother full of grace.
Yeah. Hail Mary, full of grace.
Yeah.
The Lord is with thee.
Blessed
Blessed
art
art thou amongst women. Yeah.
Yeah.
Senior training's coming back to you.
Isn't it though?
I know it all.
Well,
I
I'm
don't
glad my
forget-
mom was
I don't
Catholic
forget
and never
stuff.
put me through all that.
So many
Although
years
I
of that.
think it would have been nice if I'd gone to Catholic schools. I would have got a better education and probably actually went
Fuck
somewhere else better in life.
No, I gotta say that.
I had a great
being
education for
I left Catholic school in the 7th grade, and went to public school. And in 8th grade, I got the math textbook that I had in 6th grade at Catholic school. So it's a shame that you got to pay tuition to get that kind of education.
And you're already having
When
to
it
pay
should be
school
available
tax
for everyone.
too, so you're paying for that education as
I
well.
mean,
You're the
you're
difference. They can
paying,
tell you.
supposed to be paying for the privatization, the exclusive club, church, what have you, supporting the Catholic community, whatever your reasoning. Not to get a better education. Education should be available to everyone.
See, where I didn't like going to public school, same with you. It was like, what the fuck am I doing in here? Because I was already had enough credits going from in high school, Catholic school, going over to public school.
Mhm.
With the foreign language classes, all of the other classes I had to take in Catholic high school, man, I had enough credits to graduate junior year. I could have, if that specific school would have let me. Like if I went to male or manual or something, I believe they're the ones that let you graduate earlier. It's that or the Brown, if you have enough credits. If you transferred or something like that.
There's a couple schools, if you have enough credits, you can
They'll-
go ahead and graduate.
They'll let you graduate
You're
early,
already
right?
graduated, but they give you your diploma, but you get to go through the ceremony if you still want to. When
Right,
it comes
and
up.
you don't have,
Right.
yeah. And, well, Mary Ryan didn't let me do that. Instead, what they did was say, okay, we're going to have to take these credits away that aren't useful in this class. I'm like, so wait a minute. I'm going to have to retake foreign language classes, even though I already have both credits in foreign language. Like,
That's crazy.
that's ridiculous. That's 4 credits for foreign language. That's what the colleges are going to look at. They're not going to look at it as seeing, they're going to be like, what the fuck did you have this guy doing to have more credits than he needed? Because they're not just looking at your JCPS records. They're looking at the Archdiocese of Louisville records as well. Which
Well, see, the good
those
thing
records
about
show
that
high
is, though,
grades
is if
and-
you're getting extra shit, colleges would have looked at you better, too.
Oh, they
Colleges
did.
got
I
more
had,
stuff.
oh my god, I had like offers from, like, there was so many art schools all across the United States. I had some offers in Florida, from California, none from
Manual
Harvard.
wanted me.
Huh?
Manual High School wanted me for my order.
I
I
was
went
like,
to Trinity for art.
No.
That and football. Were the
Maybe
only
that's
the only
something you
thing
should
I
do
did
as a
that I played
hobby.
football.
Start
That's what
doing art
started
again. You never, no,
They took my
paint.
friends
Be
to
like Bob
art.
Ross. Sit down and watch Bob Ross and paint.
this is a happy tree.
Yeah.
We're just gonna draw a little middle finger on this tree. Because fuck this planet. Like,
There was a
there we go.
guy in this cabin, and he fell in the creek and drowned.
Oh no, there's the
I
Jason.
drowned him.
Oh no, there's Jason Voorhees poking his little hockey mask. Make sure you add the ha-has. Those are happy ha-has. He's about to get his victim.
Oh no, the Joker's in the background.
Oh, that's a fun little game.
Man.
Man, I tripped so many people out with that today at work because just randomly, when somebody said that I looked like that dude from Gotham, I'm like, I have no clue what you're talking about. I have never been accused of looking like any clown or Joker whatsoever. And they're like, oh my god, that was Mark Hamill's. They're just like,
Who
they're
did you
freaked
just
out.
sign up to do the voice for
Chucky.
again? Chucky, that's right. He's doing the
That's the
voice.
only reason I'm gonna go see it. Yep.
He's doing Chucky.
He's
in
doing
the
the
movie.
voice of Chucky.
The
in
TV
movie.
show, Brad is, or what's it? It's Brad, right? That was the original voice of Chucky, Brad Dourif.
I think
Bradley
so.
Dourif. It's empty anyways. What am I freaking for?
Because you should always freak.
I'm still going to. It's the don't make a mess in me. But yeah,
Don't
Brad
make a mess.
Dourif is supposed to be the voice of Chucky for the
That
TV
sounds like you're trying not to get a
series,
girl pregnant.
because they're supposed to make a TV show.
Yeah.
Right. Like they're supposed to make a TV show of a continuation of the movies. But then this movie that Mark Hamill's in is a reboot. Or a reimagining, basically. Not a reboot, but a reimagining.
Yeah.
Like how Final Destination, they're getting a reimagining.
Oh my god, dude. They don't need a fucking reimagining. They just keep coming
It
up
was
with new shit
perfect how
for
it was, man.
No, that's just it though. They don't need to call it a reimagining. Just add it on as a new one.
Well, no, because in the last one, they finished it. They tied it all in together. They had an ending.
I don't
So they
remember.
have to redo it. Like, if they were going to do another Final Destination, they would have to pull out a whole brand new one.
That'd be fine. It'd be easy.
So-
Just get new characters.
Right, but the original Final Destination saga all tied in together. It was all parts of events of one occurrence of death, basically. So they all puzzle pieced together in that very last movie of Final Destination. That's why they do have to reboot it, because it's over with. Like, that original line is done with. They have to restart a whole new reimagining with
Well,
it.
see,
and,
I wouldn't
you know,
just
new
call it a
deaths and all that.
reimagination. I'd just be going on as the new chapter.
A whole new death situation that got everybody survived and Fuck
Yeah, I mean that's basically kind of what they did in some of the
you
movies.
could even keep the same kind of whatever it was, curse, spirit, entity, death, or whatever, because it never really shows itself.
It's death.
Well, that's probably what they might do in the reboot is actually show the Force.
See, I don't want to see
but,
the Force.
you know,
I thought it was cooler, all Hitchcocky like that.
I think
not
it's awesome
seeing it.
not seeing it too. And
Because then anything could be used to scare the fuck out of you.
I'm excited for Ash versus Evil Dead.
Wow.
It's just looking good for the next season. I don't know.
Oh, there's
It's
not.
the- it's the
there's
last
the
season.
last
Season was the last season?
They're not making another one after that. That's why they.
So are they
tied it
doing a
off.
movie with it then?
No,
Cause
he
they-
quit. He was done with it.
No, it wasn't that he was done with it. That it was canceled
Oh,
because it was
What?
done on Showtime, I think, originally.
Stars.
Or Stars, one of those. They canceled it. They said the ratings were getting too low for it.
Oh, I heard there was.
There might be. There
I
might
heard
be
there was a
something new
shot of
coming
it.
up.
They had it planned for another season.
it'd be
season
nice
three-
if
So
they switch
Netflix
it
might
like,
pick it up if
yeah.
they canceled it through Stars.
Well, like how
Netflix is probably
Netflix picked up Lucifer.
because I haven't heard that it was canceled.
I heard that a few months back.
Netflix.
So it
Oh,
might
okay.
change by then. I haven't heard anything
Because
else about
Netflix
it.
just put the third season on there.
I know that.
So if they're doing that, if they were canceling the show in its entirety,
Well, maybe they're not saying nothing until after, a little bit after. Like, guess what, bitches?
it's like Karate Kid. They all know, or Cobra Kai. They all know there's going to be a season 3. It's just when it's going to come out. They don't want to wait a year. Like no one wants to wait another year for that season to come
Man,
out.
all shows seem to take a year to come out
It
with a new season.
It does, and
It's
like with the
crazy.
web show,
Well, see,
it really
it-
shouldn't.
it's
You know,
kind-
we're gonna fourth
Well,
wall
see,
that
now
one.
here's the thing, though.
I'm getting some new recruits.